Hello, everybody. Today I am here back again. You know, since I'm so good at making excuses for everything, let's make an excuse for why I haven't been here, despite me continually making promises of coming back. The truth is, it is also partially everything that I've been saying up to this point. You know, being busy, A to J connection, school, etc. Um, it's also, which is something I've realized lately, is that I'm going through that phase again. Like, I don't know if I mentioned to you before about how I go through these phases where I really love something, follow it religiously, and then I move on to something else, move on to something else, and it's a cycle where I come back to that point again and keep doing that. Um, so it was idols, and then I got really into video games, started playing a lot of video games, and currently it's comics, actually, which is interesting. I've been reading a lot. I subscribe to Marvel Unlimited, and I first read the whole entire 98 comics in the Civil War event. That was fun. I actually really enjoyed it. Marvel Civil War, obviously, since it's Marvel Unlimited. And then after that, I got interested, and I was like, you know what? Like, I actually like this. I'm actually legitimately enjoying this. So let's move on. So I decided to start from the beginning of basically when Stan Lee started doing stuff, and that's Fantastic Four #1. I know Captain America. I don't know the guys who did it, but Captain America, Submariner, and the original Human Torch. It was done during like the 40s, early 40s and 50s. I know it's pseudo canon. I've been doing a lot of research on it, asking friends who are really into the comic books much longer than I've been, and I've determined that what I'm going to do ultimately is I'm going to read all the old stuff with Captain America, but from my understanding, it's very repetitive. It's a lot of the same stuff, and it's not as exciting as when Stan Lee took over, and they took Captain America and these heroes in other directions. But this really sparked when I found when Submariner was introduced in Fantastic Four as this guy with like memory loss who was bearded, and then he got his memory jogged again, and then he came back into action, and I was just like, I want to see his past. Not to mention, I've read some of the Captain America comics, and like seeing him refer to his past before kind of got me interested too. So I know it's going to be repetitive, and I'm going to do it in chunks as I continue the main Marvel 616 line, which is what they call the main Marvel universe. Um, so that's where we stand. I'm like 30 comics into the main 616 right now. I've seen Ant-Man, which is actually my favorite out of all the comics, surprisingly, so far. I've seen Ant-Man so far, Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, and there's one other. Oh, and Thor. Um, Thor is actually my least favorite just because of the way he's handled is kind of weird, but I'm hoping it'll pick up. But that being said, that's all that's in the Marvel Universe as far as at the point of history I'm in, which is cool. It's actually interesting. Keeps things focused so I can get to know the characters and the universe before it starts expanding, because I know when it expands it gets crazy. So that's that. On top of that, I've been watching all these superhero shows. I'm currently caught up with all the Arrowverse stuff. So Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, other stuff. Legends of Tomorrow, and Constantine, and Vixen. I'm caught up with everything, and I'm watching them as they air now. I'm almost done with season 2 of Daredevil, and then after I finish that, I'm gonna catch up in Marvel, which I haven't done yet. So that's I haven't caught up in Agents of Shield or Agent Carter yet. Once that's done, I'm caught up with everything, and then I'll just keep up as they come. And Star Wars Rebels on the side. Oh, that was another thing. I went through a Star Wars phase before Force Awakens came out, and now, like I'm sure you guys remember, I mentioned reading everything. I've read all the canon, the new canon material. I've watched, played everything. So that was another obsession. So right now, comics is my obsession. I'm starting to phase out of it. I've noticed too a bit. And I don't know where I'll go from there. But point is, my interests change. I get really into something and then I change into something else. That's just how I am. I don't forget about it. I always come back to it. But like I said, it's a phase. Like I go through specific things and then I cycle back, keep going, etc. Um, so that being said, since I've officially decided to just close down Curry Gaming, how I'm going to close it down, what I'm going to do with those videos, I haven't decided yet. Even though I lost most of the videos in my when my hard drive broke, which I mentioned that I have redundant backup now, so that I don't have that issue again. Um, but I've decided to close it. The reason is because my video game speaking outlet is mostly through A to J connections now anyways. And while I prefer talking on video because it's easier than writing things down, I write for them now, and that's what it's going to be, which is fine. I enjoy it very much, and I'm getting some neat benefits from it. So, A to J Connections is officially my place for video game related stuff now. Now, I mentioned that, but I don't know how to put this. I know I know a lot of there's people that come here specifically because I talk about idol stuff, and that when I created this channel, that was my biggest interest, and that's what I always talked about. I'm sure you noticed as my interest waned, as I mentioned these things, other things I was talking about that I like, and I'm sure you might have noticed when I started phasing out to those things, I started posting less here. It's because I felt like it was a responsibility for me to only post about idol stuff. And I realized this is my personal channel. It's not even named Idol this, Idol that. It's about my own stuff. It's even called My Obsessions, not My Idols. So for those of you that come here specifically for idols, forgive me. Because I've decided from now on I'm just going to use this as an outlet to talk about whatever I want. Every week I'll talk about whatever subject. If I'm into a really cool comic, that's what I'll talk about. Um, Obviously, idols are still a part of my life, and they're going to be part of that grouping of stuff, but it's not my main focus anymore. I'm going to broaden my scope. Which is funny because I actually have seen a lot of complaints about some YouTubers who decided to broaden their scope, and then suddenly, oh no, everybody hates them. Like, I remember when Boogie started doing some more stuff beside it. I know when Husky StarCraft, which is a favorite of mine, when he stopped doing StarCraft stuff and kind of doing other stuff and doing other things in his life, and then people were really upset. And it's just like, you know what, like, I understand, but we need to do what interests us. And if we're not enjoying what we're doing anymore, why waste the time of us and the time of you guys? So, I emphasize, obviously I still love idol stuff. I don't know if you can see, I'm going to move my camera right now. Obviously, all of this is idol stuff. So, well, mostly, except for this Jigglypuff and the Final Fantasy. Obviously, mostly idol stuff. The shelves, like the CDs, those are all Hello Project stuff. So the point is that that part of me is not going anywhere. It's just that I want to talk about everything I love. And to be honest, I actually feel a little limited and constrained by the fact that I don't talk about everything I love. So that's what it's going to be. So once again, I emphasize, if that's all you're here for is idol stuff, forgive me. It's not going to be all I talk about anymore. That'll also actually motivate me to do it weekly episodes again, rather than only coming when I have something to talk about. To be fair, I will put in the description so that if you guys click on it, or even in the title sometimes, what I'm talking about. So if it's like idols or this or that, I'll let you guys know. So in case you're here for idols and it's not about idols, no problem. Don't even watch it. Don't worry about it. If you're here for video games, you'll know. If you don't care about idols and you want to hear about video games, you'll know. Simple. No problem. But I mean, this means that like my idol videos are going to be the same amount of consistency as they've been for the past few months, but there'll be other stuff too. So there you go. That also, I want to emphasize that since I do work for A to J Connections, there's going to be a huge thing going on there. Like, I'm going to mention them a lot. It's just a fact. That's where I write. I write about Hello Project. I write about video games. Occasionally other stuff too, but mostly that's it. That's where my heart is. We interviewed Cute. That was because of A to J Connections. And then there was Texas, and that's just how it's going to be. So, if you don't like it, sorry, but that's where it is. But it brings benefits. I'll have more things to talk about. Like recently, if you relatively recently, if you haven't, you know what? Actually, I'll save it for another time. But what I did want to talk about, which was a more recent, is Texas. Actually, since I mentioned Texas, I haven't really talked about it yet. So I actually wrote. If you keep up on my Amoeba blog, I actually wrote a daily journal of all 4 days of my whole entire experience of it, which I'll link below as usual. And I'll put all the A to J coverage links, which is mostly written by me anyways, except for the interview. But yeah, so Texas, like, it was interesting. The people were nice in Houston. It was cool. Like, it was a little different from here, of obviously California, Los Angeles area, but it was nice. It was very, very quaint. I had this very, like, I don't know how to describe it, like this very, like, old feeling. even though everything's really modern. It was very interesting. But unfortunately, I didn't get to do too much sightseeing. The one day I did have to sightsee, Manuel actually broke his foot or injured himself. We don't know what happened. And then that ruined the whole day. Um, which I don't mind. I keep picking on him about it and telling him that it's his fault that my day was ruined, but I don't actually care. Excuse me. Um, so I stayed with him the whole time, even though he told me to leave. So that's okay. But point is that I had a good time. I had some good food. Met a lot of the fellow fans that I don't get to see very often, which is really nice. The con had a bit of issues that really put a lot of us on edge and caused a little bit of conflict within us too, which was uncalled for. I think some of us, including myself, needed to be a little bit nicer. Um, but in the end, it was worth it. Morning Musume is, while we don't get the same kind of overall, what's the word I'm looking for, energetic experience of a full-on overseas concert, like we did in New York, like we did in Mexico, um, we get something a lot more personal, which in my opinion is a lot more fun, when with groups like this coming to conventions. For example, Morning Musume pretty much never holds autograph sessions. That's not a thing in the Hello Project. We had an autograph session. And it was so cool because, for one, it's longer than handshakes. No, we don't get to shake their hands. We don't get to touch them, whatever. But we got to converse. Like, I literally got to sit there and talk with, like, Miki no. You guys know I can't speak English. uh, Miki Nonaka for, like, it was like 2 or 3 minutes. I just sat there and chatted with her, and we talked about various things in English, mind you. And it was cool. Like, it's things like that that you don't get out of an experience that's um, conducted in the same way that Japanese events usually are. So I really appreciated that. It was really cool. The autograph session was fun. They had 2 autograph sessions. I didn't get to go to the second one because of Manuel breaking his foot. That was on the last day. The concert was phenomenal. One of the best set lists. Their performance was great. It was amazing. We got to interview them, which was phenomenal. Went way better than the cute interview, even though it was like half the length. We had a great time, and the girls were really perceptive, and my Japanese has definitely improved because I understood a lot more, so I was able to take better notes. Um, and it was really fun. Like, overall, and because it was a convention, they were just walking around like nothing. Like, we just saw, I actually bumped into them a few times. I actually saw uh, Mizuki and Kanon just drinking coffee at Starbucks, so that was cool. A lot of people, if you haven't already seen, all over the internet, various fans have posted all of their sightings and bumping into the group members. It was cool. After their Q&A session, which was actually really cool, by the way. It was really well done. I loved the way it was conducted. Um, I didn't get to ask any questions because I was up there as press, but it was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed being part of that. After that, like, we were standing outside chatting, me and Manuel and whatnot, and it was funny because same thing, we just bumped into them. They just walked by, and we're just like, oh, cool, well, there's Morning Musume. So it was fun. It was a really good time. The convention itself was a screw up, and there's a lot of problems with management there. And it's sad because the volunteers, with all their heart, are trying their best, but they're the ones who get all the flack, even though it's fault of the management and the higher ups. Like I said, I'm guilty of this too. I did snap at one of them, and I apologized afterwards, but it was not right. And a lot of people did. I noticed a lot of people were snapping at him, and it wasn't right, but I understand also there's nobody else for us to express our upset feelings with. But in the end, I don't blame the volunteers. They did the best they could. It's really the higher ups that are the problem, miscommunication. But overall, for those of us that went specifically for Morning Musume, I didn't get to see anything else. Except for the fashion show, which was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Um, since I didn't get to really see anything else, the Morning Musume stuff was good. It was good, despite some technical difficulties and problems here and there. It was really heartwarming and fun. Um, so those of you that didn't get to go, please, I urge you, do not miss out on it again. I've actually decided to opt into making a separate savings account for events like this, so that when the time comes, I have the money set aside ready to go. so that I'm not in a fix. Just a little bit here and there, but it adds up fast. I actually have a separate fund that I'm starting to save up for when Cute inevitably disbands, um, which you know is going to have to happen eventually. They're idols. That's just how it is. Um, but that's important, especially for those of you who live in America, especially people who live in the Midwest. Like, I feel so bad. Like, you could have made it. You should have made it work. And you missed out on so much. The most exciting thing for me, despite how much I love Morning Musume current, is that Aika Mitsui was there. She's not an idol anymore. She's not in the show business. She's more behind the scenes, and because of that, she was able to interact a lot more personally with fans. Like, I literally bumped into her like multiple times every day it was there. It was really phenomenal. And our Hello Project panel that we did, which with the focus on Morning Musume, she showed up to it. It was crazy. She showed up to our panel, and it was funny because we were sitting there setting up, because there's all sorts of technical difficulties with the panel. Like, the audio wasn't working right. We had to use a microphone on the speaker of the computer in order to get the sound. It was just weird. And the projector wasn't working. We had to fix that. Thankfully we did, but the sound was still an issue. And then while we're trying to figure everything out, like, Aika just walks in, and I see her in the distance. And this is when you know a real idol fan and somebody who really follows somebody. And I never made this connection until I saw her. I instantly knew who she was, not because I could see her face, because in the distance I couldn't make her out. It was by what she was wearing. It was so funny when I really looked at it, like, I thought about it, like, her fashion choice is so, like, I'm so used to it. And I just, subconsciously, I was like, wait, that's Aika, isn't it? And then when she got closer and I walked down to say hello to see what she was with her handler or whatever, it was really crazy. I was just like, yeah, that is Haika. And she asked, she's in English also. She asked, like, can I sit in and watch you guys? Do you mind? I was like, I don't know how to answer that. Of course you can watch. Like, we'd be honored. So it was pretty cool. So she sat in for the first half of our panel. I saw her playing around with her phone in the panel, and I figured it was because she was bored. Maybe she was blogging or whatever. And that's not what it was. Apparently, she was looking for other stuff, fan events to see. She wanted to experience it from a fan's point of view now that she had that liberty. So she left in the middle of the panel, which none of us minded. We were extremely happy that she showed up for any of it at all. But she sat in the back, so nobody noticed her. None of the fans even knew who were there at the panel, which is pretty funny. We had to tell them after she was gone, for respect of her privacy. She walked out, and okay, cool. It was late. Our panel was at 10, so she left at like 10:45 or something like that, or 10:30. And later on, after the panel was over, I see posts on Facebook, and the Hello Disco, the mini Hello party that was held, she totally went to that. So it was a total off-site fan-held event. She found out about it, she went to it, and that was cool. Like, I didn't get to be there for it, obviously, since I was doing the panel, and by the time I would have gotten there, she would have been gone, and the party was almost over anyways, by the time the panel wrapped up, so I didn't even worry about it. But, I mean, like, that's phenomenal. She went, and, like, the fans must have been so happy. I saw so many pictures of people doing selfies with her and whatnot, and, like, that's cool. Aika Mitsui, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. It was just really cool, and it was cool being able to interact with her, and it brings things down to a more interesting level. You know, like, you put them on this pedestal of being these special people, these, you know, stars and whatnot, and it was kind of nice seeing that they're human in that, and it was fun. And honestly, I'm getting that hit harder more than anybody now that I'm with Manuel and the company. Like, I see idols, obviously not as often as him because I don't have the time to, but on occasion I do, and it's becoming more real. Like, it's not even that special anymore. It's special, but it's like not unique, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't mind interacting with them. I'm starting to get used to it, which is interesting. It's a really big shift in my, which doesn't change the fact that I'm a fan. Like, I still seized up when I talked to Haruna Ikubo. I still totally screamed like a fangirl at the concert. You know, that's all gonna be there. But it's interesting. Like I have a new perspective, and it was cool seeing that. And Aika managed to do that for the fans, the normal fans that who aren't press and whatnot, and that was cool. Like that was really cool. So I feel bad saying this, but Aika Mitsui was really the highlight of the event. Like her coming was so amazing, and her interactions and what she did, showing up to the panel, showing up to the party, talking to the fans, interviewing fans, hanging out. Like that's awesome. That's awesome. So all in all, it was a great event for Morning Musume fans specifically, despite the hiccups. So that's Texas. Check out my full coverage down below. Um, like I said, I'll have links to my journal, my personal journal, and then there'll be a link to my report on the concert specifically, which is officially sanctioned by Hello Project, by the way. All of our content on A to J Connections is for this event, I mean. Soon we'll have the interview, our interview with Morning Musume, which actually has a kind of some pretty neat things that you'll really appreciate, including we dropped a bombshell of a question which was answered in a very, very interesting way, and we're hoping it'll come true, but you'll see when the interview gets released. I also wrote up an event report of the whole entire con as a whole for Morning Musume goers, covering what happened and what they did and all that stuff. So I hope you look forward to it. Those two will obviously get added to this video as a link when they're uploaded. Everything else that's out will obviously be down there. So that's where we stand. I meant this to be 5 to 10 minutes. As usual, I talk too much, so it ended up being way more. But that's where we stand. Shift and focus for me. Various more varied content for me now. And Texas was a blast. And good times. Oh, excuse me. And finally, I'd like to close out with saying, speaking of comic book stuff, I actually just came back from Batman v Superman. I went to work and then went and saw it and came back. I know a lot of people don't like Zack Snyder's approach, and a lot of people didn't like Man of Steel. I personally liked it a lot. I actually really like Zack Snyder's style, and I think it fits the DC verse really well and really adds a very unique tone to it that helps accentuate the characters a lot better than others, and helps differentiate them from Marvel, which is nice. Like when I go into a DC movie now, I expect a very different tone from Marvel. I love both of them to death, but now I know I can go to DC for this and I can go to Marvel for that, and I'm cool with that. It was good. I actually really liked it. I was scared that with all these heroes being announced, being in the movie, that it was going to be really shoehorned in and feel very, very lackluster, but it actually wasn't. Most of the I'm not even going to say it. No spoilers. But the point is that it wasn't. It didn't feel shoehorned in. In fact, it actually felt very natural the way everything was presented for each of the heroes. The sequence with Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman was sick. It was really like it had my heart going. Like I remember when I first saw the Avengers, like I went crazy. I was so happy. Like it was like my inner child was being like jumping out of my skin. And that's what happened when I saw this. When they like that scene, like you see in the picture, I'm sure they released it way before the movie came out, of like Wonder Woman like in the middle, and then Batman on her left, and then Superman on her right. That whole sequence was great. Another part I really liked. I know most people don't like this. I tend to not like what people like for some reason. I tend to be the opposite. But Jesse, whatever his name is, Eisenberg, his approach to Lex Luthor, I actually really liked it. I was afraid for another Topher Grace problem, where like he was gonna bring his personality in it in a very bad way and kind of butcher the character, like what happened to Eddie Brock. But like Jesse actually brought a really cool vibe to Lex Luthor and his own personality, and he really owned the character. Like, I know it's not the same as the comics, the way he presented it. Obviously, it's not. But I feel like he still captured the overall theme of Lex Luthor while bringing in his own quirkiness, Jesse's quirkiness. And that worked brilliantly. I liked it a lot. There was some problem with flow, I think, story progression specifically in the movie. There was a lot of things that were kind of thrown at the viewer without proper explanation. Um, Now, most of this stuff is people should know. I mean, from the 50 million Superman movies before, the Dark Knight trilogy, I think that's what they're playing on a lot more, is that we've had all of these superhero movies in the past, so why re-explain everything? We just assume that the viewer knows. A young viewer's not going to know. Older viewers, probably. People who are familiar with the source material, definitely. And for people who are familiar with the source material, I think are the people who benefited the most from this movie. It was very, because it was easy to follow because you already know everything that's happening. You know how to make those connections. But a brand new person into it, say somebody who just watched Man of Steel, that's his only exposure to DC Comics at all. If he or she came into Batman v Superman, there were a few things that would be confusing. But from my perspective, since I have that knowledge, I actually enjoyed the movie a lot. It made me feel giddy a lot. Just little things here and there made me really excited. I really loved the conflict between Batman and Superman was actually handled pretty nicely, I felt. It was resolved a little weird, but it still worked. The only thing I didn't like was a little part with Lex Luthor in the end, which was kind of random. There was no proper explanation for it. Like I said, I won't explain what happened, but like the overarching villain was fun. Luthor was fun. The introduction of Wonder Woman throughout the movie was really cool. Batman's story and Superman's story was really cool, and like their conflict, and it was a stylistic epic. Like I really liked it. So point being, it was a good movie to me, and I enjoyed it a lot, and I look forward to seeing it again next week with a friend, and that's where we stand. So, anyways, that's everything this week. Complain about it being long, but to be fair, I post one like every couple of months, so being long isn't that big a deal. So if you listen to me rant this whole time, thank you. If you didn't, thank you anyways. You still came here at least for a little bit. So, and you probably won't hear me saying this anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I'll see you guys around, and see you guys next week, hopefully. I'll try to be more consistent since I'll have more topics to talk about. Next week will most likely be specifically video games and comics, but maybe not. We'll see. See you guys next week. Bye.